The storm and the stranger. The storm came. Fast dust and lightning danced across the empty desert plains of planet Uran. Nothing moved except a single human soldier standing outside a small outpost, watching the clouds boil in the dark sky. His name was Ronan, a quiet man, a former war hero, now just a watcher in a forgotten place. He had no friends, no missions, just silence. But that silence was about to break as the wind howled louder. Ronan saw a figure stumbling through the storm. Small, weak, barely walking. He narrowed his eyes. At first, he thought it was just a mirage, like many he had seen before, but the figure fell hard. Ronan grabbed his gear and rushed out. The wind almost pushed him back, but he pushed harder. As he got closer, he saw her an alien woman, barely breathing. Her skin was a pale violet. Her clothes were torn. Her lips were dry. He dropped to his knees. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened just a little. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Then she whispered 2 words, "My daughter," and passed out. Inside the outpost, Ronan laid her on the cot and gave her water. He wrapped her wounds. She was shaking, but still alive. Who was she? What was she doing here? Uran was no place for aliens anymore. Not after the war. He waited 2 hours before she finally opened her eyes again. Her voice was soft but clearer this time. "Please, I need help." Ronan crossed his arms. "You walked into a human outpost alone. That's not a smart move." She tried to sit up. "I had no choice. They took her. My child. I can't find her alone. Who took her?" The woman looked at him, her eyes wide with fear and fury. "You're kind." Ronan stood still. "She didn't stop. Not you. Not soldiers. A group that broke away. They experiment on alien children. They took my daughter from our home while I was away. I tracked them here, but I lost everything." Ronan stayed quiet. He didn't want to believe her. But deep down, he knew stories like this were not new. After the war, some humans had gone dark, forming secret groups, doing things no one wanted to admit. "Why me?" he finally asked. She looked at him. "Really?" "Looked, because you're the only human who hasn't shot me yet." Ronan looked away. That night, the storm raged on. The woman rested, but Ronan didn't sleep. Her story echoed in his head. The next morning, she was awake, sitting, eyes filled with determination. "I can't wait anymore," she said. "I'm going, with or without help." "You'll die," Ronan said. "Then I die." He hated her. Courage, because it made him feel something he had buried for years. She stood, shaky but firm. "If you help me, I will give you anything." Ronan frowned. "What does that mean?" The woman walked closer. "My name is Lyra. I come from a noble bloodline, but I am ready to give up everything for my daughter." "That doesn't answer the question." She took a breath. Then, with eyes locked onto his, she said something that froze Ronan where he stood. "If you help me get her back, I will become yours." Ronan stepped back. "What?" "In my culture, to save. A life like this means a bond. I will give myself to you. Body, soul, everything. I will belong to you fully." He stared at her, shocked, confused, and a little afraid. "You don't have to say yes," she added. "But I have nothing else to offer." Ronan felt the heat of the storm pressing against the windows. Inside him, an older storm had started. He looked at her and said nothing. The Forbidden Lands. Ronan didn't answer her offer. Not with words. Instead, the next morning, he packed his rifle, loaded water canisters, and stood by the door. Lyra looked up from her seat. Her eyes, still tired, widened. "You're coming?" she asked softly. Ronan nodded. "Show me where they took her." She didn't smile. She didn't thank him. But something in her shoulders relaxed, Just a little. The landscape outside the outpost was dead, cracked ground, burnt trees. The wind carried whispers of the war that once tore this planet apart. They traveled in silence. For hours, until Lyra pointed toward the distant mountains. There, she said, behind those cliffs. That's where the signal went dead. I tracked my daughter's location to that point. Ronan narrowed his eyes. That's the black sector. She nodded. I know. He clenched his jaw. The black sector wasn't just off limits, it was cursed. An old military zone sealed after the war. Rumors said it was where illegal labs ran wild experiments. Where soldiers went missing. Where no human dared go anymore. You're sure she's there? He asked. Lyra looked at him, her voice shaking. I don't know. But I feel her. A mother always knows. By nightfall, they reached an old human checkpoint now broken and abandoned. Razor wire hung like vines. Turrets were rusted. Warning signs still flickered. Nitrogen monoxide entry. Biohazard. Death beyond this point. Ronan stepped through. Lyra hesitated. Her feet stopped. He turned. You all right? She stared at the ground. I used to think humans were monsters. Then I met you. Ronan didn't know what to say. So he said nothing. The deeper they went, the stranger it got. Buildings were half melted. Blackened glass crunched beneath their boots. Machines blinked with no power source. The silence was too perfect. Like the land itself was holding its breath. Then they found the first body, or what was left of it. It was human. Twisted, skin pale, eyes open but blind. His chest had a mark carved into it, 3 circles inside a triangle. Lyra gasped. That's them. You recognize the symbol? Ronan asked. Yes, she whispered. The group that took my daughter, they call themselves the Ascenders. They believe mixing human and alien genetics will make the next step of evolution. Ronan's face darkened. Sick bastards. They don't care who dies. Children. Mothers, anyone. Her voice cracked. They think pain is part of the process. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Just for a second, then kept walking. They entered a dome-shaped building buried in the earth. Inside they found rows of cryopods, most broken. Some humming. Lyra ran ahead, scanning faces. None of them were her daughter. Ronan moved slower. His instincts were on high alert. Suddenly click. A sound. Metal shifting. Ronan raised his gun. The far end of the room, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Tall. Human. Wearing a black coat. A glowing mark on his forehead. You shouldn't be here, the man said. We're not leaving without the girl, Ronan replied. The man tilted his head. You brought her here? He looked at Lyra. Fascinating. She's even more perfect than the scans showed. Lyra gritted her teeth. Where is my child? The man smiled. Your daughter is special. She's evolving. You'll meet her soon. But not like this. Then he raised his hand and machines in the walls began to move. Ronan pulled Lyra behind cover as lasers blasted from hidden turrets. Metal arms reached from the walls, scanning, grabbing, crawling. He fired back, taking down 2 drones, but more kept coming. We need to run, he shouted. No, not without her. We'll both die here if we stay. Lyra froze, torn between fear and fury. Then above the noise came a sound that made them both stop, a child's voice, echoing through the speakers. Mommy? Lyra gasped. That's her. That's my baby. The voice repeated, slightly distorted. Mommy? Help me. Ronan looked at Lyra. Her hands trembled, eyes full of tears. But before she could run forward, the lights shut off. Total darkness. Then a soft red glow lit up one cryopod in the center of the room. Inside it was her, a small alien girl. eyes closed, skin glowing faintly. Attached. To tubes. Alive. Lyra, Ronan began, but she was already running. As she reached the pod, the ground shook. Something massive was waking up beneath them. Ronan turned his rifle toward the dark. This was a trap, he said. And the machines started to scream. The deal that shouldn't exist. The scream of the machines echoed like metal beasts roaring in pain. Ronan didn't waste a second. He pulled Lyra back just as thick cables shot out from the walls, writhing like snakes, aiming for her spine. No, she cried. My daughter, she's right there. Ronan fired 3 rounds into the control panel beside the pod. Sparks flew. The cables froze mid-air. The cryopod hissed. Slowly it began to open. Inside, the little girl stirred. Her tiny chest moved. Her fingers twitched. Lyra dropped to her knees, eyes wide, heart racing. Nia, it's her. It's really her. But Ronan wasn't looking at the child. He was looking at the thing rising behind them. From the shadows, a new figure stepped forward. It wasn't the same man as before. This one was different. Taller, bulkier, skin covered in strange tech, half human, half machine. Its voice was low and unnatural. She cannot be taken. She is part of the evolution now. Ronan raised his rifle. She's a child. She is more than that. She is the bridge between 2 worlds. You, it pointed at Lyra. You gave birth to something sacred. You should be proud. Lyra stepped in front of her daughter, teeth clenched. You don't get to speak about pride. The creature moved closer, but Ronan didn't wait. He fired again. This time, the bullets barely made a dent. Run, he shouted. Lyra picked up the child. Nia was barely conscious, but alive. She held her tight as Ronan blasted the floor controls. Steam exploded from the vents. Lights burst overhead. Alarms shrieked. They ran through the smoke, dodging sparks and falling wires. The walls behind them collapsed as the creature chased, ripping through debris like it was paper. Finally, they burst into the open air, back into the cold ruins. The sky above was bleeding red. They didn't stop running until the outpost was far behind them. Only then did Ronan collapse. Later that night, as Ronan wrapped his bleeding arm, Lyra sat quietly beside him. Nia was asleep, curled under a blanket between them. Neither spoke for a long time. Then, Lyra broke the silence. You didn't have to help me. Ronan didn't answer. She looked down. I didn't think anyone would. I thought I'd die out there alone. He shook his head. You're not alone anymore. Her eyes welled up. She almost forgot me, Ronan. When I saw her in that pod, she didn't even recognize my voice. She was drugged, confused. That's not her fault. No, but I still feel like I failed her. Her voice cracked. I left her for 1 day. 1 day, and they took everything. Ronan looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't just some alien mother anymore. She was broken, strong, and still standing. Then she said something he wasn't ready for. Meant what I said. He blinked. About what? She met his eyes. The bond. My offer. I don't take that lightly. In my culture, we give our souls to those who save our blood. It's more than marriage. It's surrender. Ronan's voice was low. You don't need to do that. Lyra shook her head. I know. But I want to. Not out of debt, but because I saw who you really are. She took his hand. Her skin was cold, but her touch burned deep. I've seen war. I've seen monsters. But today, I saw a human who risked everything for someone not his own. That means something to me. To us. He pulled his hand back. Slowly. Lyra, I'm not that man. Not really. I've done things I don't speak of. I've lost people. I don't even know who I am anymore. She leaned closer. Then let's find out together. They sat in silence again, only the sound of the fire crackling. and the soft breath of a sleeping child. For the first time in years, Ronan felt safe, not because he had weapons, not because he had walls, but because someone believed in him, and someone needed him. The next morning, Ronan found an old beacon, buried in a case. If they could fix it, they could call for help. Maybe get Nia off this cursed planet. But the moment he powered it on, the signal got jammed. Something. Or someone was still watching. Lyra looked up. "We're not done, are we?" "No," Ronan said. "They'll come for her again." "Yes." Lyra stood. Her expression hardened. "Then let them try." Ronan loaded his rifle. The human, the alien, and the little girl between them. A strange new family standing between the past. And whatever came next. Asterisk into the shadows. The sun didn't rise the next morning. Thick clouds covered the sky like a shroud of ash. The wind had stopped. Even the air felt heavier. Ronan stepped outside the broken outpost, scanning the horizon. The landscape hadn't changed, but the silence had. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was waiting. Inside, Lyra wrapped her daughter in a heat cloak. Nia hadn't spoken since they pulled her from the cryopod. Her eyes remained half closed. Her small hands gripped Lyra's tunic like she was still floating in that machine, dreaming of safety that didn't exist. "She's not waking," Lyra whispered. Ronan looked at the child. Her skin still glowed faintly. "Too faint. She's not just sick," he said. "She's connected to something." "Connected to them," Lyra added. Her voice shook. "She's still inside their network." Ronan's jaw clenched. "Then we rip her out." They couldn't run. Not anymore. The moment they tried to activate the beacon, the interference returned. That meant the Ascenders weren't finished. Maybe they never expected them to survive. Or maybe they were letting them live for now. That made Ronan uneasy. "They didn't kill us because they want something," he muttered. Lyra nodded. "And I think I know what." The journey took them east, deeper into the Forbidden Lands. Not toward safety, but toward answers, toward the source. They followed broken roads, past skeletons of cities where black towers leaned like dead trees. The buildings had no doors, no windows. Only symbols etched into stone and metal, circles, spirals, eyes that seemed to watch. Nia began to whisper in her sleep, words in known language. Lyra held her tighter. "She's remembering things," she said. "Things I never taught her." "She was only a baby when they took her," Ronan said. Lyra nodded. "They didn't just capture her. They changed her." By nightfall, they reached an old bunker built into a cliff. Ronan checked the scanners. No life signs. No energy readings. Just dead silence. They went in. The air inside was cold. Too clean. No dust. No decay. As if someone or something was still maintaining it. As they walked deeper, lights flickered on automatically. Not bright, just enough to show them where to go. It felt like walking through the belly of a machine. At the end of the hall, they found a room lined with holopanels, and in the Centira chair, wires dangled from the ceiling like metal vines. Screens pulsed with data. Symbols danced across glass. Then, one screen lit up fully. A woman's face appeared, human but not alive. Her skin was too smooth. Her eyes didn't blink. "Welcome back, Subject Nia," the voice said. "Mother detected, initiating bond restoration." Lyra stepped forward. "What is this?" Ronan grabbed her shoulder. "Careful." The voice continued. "The child is incomplete. Evolution halted. Biological source must enter the system to continue." Ronan swore under his breath. "They want you now." Lyra looked at the wires. Then at Nia, then back at the screen. "They want me to finish what they started." Before Ronan could pull her back, Nia woke. Eyes wide. Glowing. And she spoke, but not with her own voice. They're coming, she said, her voice layered with echoes. The Ascenders are coming for the bond. They will. Take her again. Ronan knelt beside the girl. Nia, listen to me. Fight it. You're safe now. But her small hands began to tremble. Her skin pulsed with light, and she looked at her mother. Tears fell from her eyes. I don't want to go back, she whispered. Don't let them take me. Lyra's heart cracked in that moment. The fear in her daughter's voice was real. This wasn't just tech. This was a soul trapped between two worlds. Suddenly, alarms blared. Ronan stood and aimed his rifle toward the hall. Movement. 5-6 targets inbound, fast. Lyra's breathing quickened. It's them. No more running, Ronan growled. He handed Lyra a small device. This is a pulse disruptor. If they try to sync with her again, trigger this. It'll fry the signal, might hurt her a little, but better than letting them in. Lyra took it with shaking hands. What about you? I'll hold them off. He moved into the hallway as shadows slid around the corner. The same man from the lab stepped forward again, but this time, he wasn't alone. 4 more figures moved beside him, humans fused with alien machines, eyes glowing, mouths stitched shut. Soldiers who had given up their minds to the cause. The leader spoke. You've seen what she can become. Why resist? Let the child evolve. Let the bloodlines merge. Ronan raised his rifle. I've seen what you are. He pulled the trigger. Gunfire echoed. The walls shook back in the room. Lyra held her daughter close, eyes locked on the door. She didn't know if Ronan would survive. She didn't know if they'd escape. But she knew one thing: she would not let her child be taken again, even if it meant surrendering herself to the same shadows that took her daughter. The price of a soul gunfire ripped through the hallway. Ronan fought like a machine. He had no armor, no backup, just his rifle and a promise. Every shot was fired with precision. 2 of the Ascenders fell, but they didn't scream. They didn't even bleed. They buzzed like machines losing signal. Then one of them got too close. Ronan shoved his elbow into its neck, but metal claws raked across his shoulder. Sparks flew. Blood spilled. He gritted his teeth, pushed through the pain, and pulled the trigger again. Inside the chamber, Lyra flinched at every blast outside. Nia was awake now, fully alert but trembling. Her body twitched like something inside was trying to take control again. I can hear them, she whispered. They're calling me back. Lyra held her close, whispering gently. You're not going anywhere. You're with me now. Nia's voice cracked. But they said I belonged to them. They said I'm not yours anymore. Lyra froze. Those words weren't just programming. They were memories. The holoscreen lit up again. The same dead-faced woman appeared. But this time, her expression had changed. More human. Subject Nia requires genetic anchoring. Without it, mental collapse is imminent. Lyra's heart dropped. What does that mean? To reclaim the child's soul, you must complete the bond. Merge with the system. One parent must be sacrificed to sever the connection permanently. Lyra's breath caught. No, she whispered. There has to be another way. There is not. Meanwhile, Ronan was losing ground. Last of the Ascenders cornered him in the outer corridor. His ammo was low. Blood dripped down his side. The lead Ascender stepped forward, smiling. Why do you fight for her? He asked. She is not yours. Ronan didn't answer. He just stared him down, breathing hard. She's just a child. A tool. You are flesh. Weak and soon forgotten. Still, no answer. Then Ronan spoke, quiet, calm, but sharp. She may not be mine. But I've seen more life in her eyes than in all of you combined. He raised his knife. If I fall protecting that life. And charged. Inside, Lyra stood over the chair of wires. The holoscreen kept repeating the words, "Merge to reclaim. Merge to reclaim." She looked down at Nia. The girl stared up at her, scared, but also brave. "I don't want to lose you, Mama." Lyra wiped her tears. "You won't, I promise." But her voice broke halfway through. She kissed her daughter's forehead, wrapped the blanket tighter around her, and walked toward the chair. Each step felt like a death sentence, but not for her, for who she used to be. She sat down. The wires moved. On their own, wrapping around her wrists. Her neck, her spine. She winced, but she didn't scream. The room dimmed. The screen flashed, initiating soul anchor bonding in progress. Her memories rushed past her eyes, holding Mia as a baby, laughing in the gardens of her home world. Running for days across broken lands, begging a human for help, falling in love with that same human without ever saying it. Then silence. In the hallway, the sound of fighting stopped. Ronan stood. Barely. The Ascender leader had fallen. Ronan dropped to one knee. His hands shook. His body was failing him. He turned his head toward the main chamber and saw the light inside, pulsing. Something was happening. He limped toward the doorway. Inside, the pod that once held Nia was glowing bright white. The chair where Lyra sat was empty. The wires hung loose. And in the middle of the room stood Nia, awake, eyes clear. Fully herself, Ronan fell to his knees. "Nia?" She turned slowly. Her voice was soft. "She saved me. Where is she?" Nia looked down, then pointed. At the HOLO screen. It showed only one thing, a pulse. One single heartbeat. Still. Fading. Gone. Ronan stared in shock. "No." Nia walked over and sat beside him. She held his arm, resting her small head on his shoulder. "She said she wasn't scared," the girl whispered. "She said, love means giving everything." Ronan shut his eyes. Tears finally came, not just for Lyra, but for everything. That night, the skies above the Forbidden Lands cracked open with thunder. And for the first time, it rained. Not acid. Not fire. Just water. The land, once dead, was beginning to live again. Ronan buried Lyra near the edge of a cliff where the sun could always find her. Nia placed a small crystal on the grave. It glowed with a faint purple light. Last of Lyra's soul stored inside it. "She's not gone," the girl said. "She's inside me now." Ronan looked at her. And saw Lyra's strength, her heart, her fire. He took the girl's hand, and together, they walked into the shadows of what was left behind, ready to face whatever came next. Blood and memory. The days passed in silence. No more enemies came. No more alarms echoed in the halls of the Rune Lab. Just wind and grief. Ronan and Nia stayed near the cliffs close to Lyra's resting place. A fire crackled quietly at night, but neither of them said much. The bond between them was real now, but fragile, like a string tied between two broken hearts. One evening, as the orange sun sank low over the jagged horizon, Nia finally spoke. Why did she have to go? Ronan stared into the fire. He didn't have a good answer. "She made a choice," he said softly, "the kind only a mother can make." "But why not take me with her?" Nia whispered. "Why didn't she let me go instead?" Ronan looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't just sadness. It was guilt. "A child carrying a weight no child should ever carry. She didn't let you go," he said. "She fought to keep you. She gave everything to save you." Nia's lips trembled. "I don't remember her Fastenot really, just her voice. And even that's fading." Later that night, while Ronan slept lightly under the stars, Nia wandered back into the lab. She moved like someone, drawn by instinct. As if her body remembered something her mind didn't. She stood before the cryopod, where she had once been trapped. Fingers touched the glass. Suddenly, lights flickered. A faint voice echoed through the speakers. Not the cold machine voice from before. This one was familiar. Warm. Motherly. Double quotes my Nia. If you're hearing this, then I'm gone. Ronan heard a faint hum and rushed in. He found Nia standing still, eyes locked on a flickering projection above the pod. It was Lyra, not Liv. Just a memory. A message. A goodbye. I never wanted you to grow up in a world like this, the hologram said. But I wanted you to grow, to live, to feel love even if I'm not there to give it. Nia began to cry silently, but she didn't look away. Lyra's image smiled gently. If Ronan is with you, trust him. I did. With everything I had. The image glitched slightly. I don't know what you'll become, my little flame. You're more than alien. More than machine. Your hope. And then the image faded into dust. Nia turned slowly. Ronan knelt down and opened his arms. She ran into them without a word, and they stayed like that for a long time. The next morning, Ronan began planning. He couldn't stay here, the Ascenders. May be quiet now, but that wouldn't last. And Nia. She was too important. Not just to him, to everyone. They traveled west. Away from the death zones. Away from the machines. Toward the outer colonies, where small human and alien communities had started living together. After the war. It was a long road. And Nia still had days where she didn't speak. Nights where she shook in her sleep. But something had changed. Her energy was stabilizing. The strange pulses in her skin were softer now. Controlled. She was no longer being pulled by their signal. She was free. One night, as they camped near a glowing lake, Nia looked up at the stars. They wanted to make me part of their future, she said. Part of some new species. A weapon. Ronan poked at the fire. You're not a weapon. I know, she replied. But I could be. He looked at her. She wasn't speaking like a child anymore. Her voice held something else. Now. Wisdom. Wounds. Double quotes. And what do you want to be? He asked. She was quiet for a while, then said, I want to remember who I was and decide who I'll become. They reached the colony outpost 2 days later. It was small, just a few domes, solar fences, and peaceful faces, human and alien, living together. At the gate, a guard stepped forward, young, friendly, a little confused. You're Ronan, right? We thought you were dead. Not yet, Ronan said. And the girl? He looked at Nia, then smiled faintly. She's my responsibility now. Inside the colony, life was simple. Ronan found work as a mechanic. Nia went to school, though she struggled to fit in at first. Some kids were scared of her. Some stared at the glow in her veins, but others were curious. And Nia, she didn't hide anymore. She talked, laughed, even cried when she needed to, because now she belonged. One afternoon, she stood in front of a mirror. The light from her chest shimmered gently, controlled, steady. And she whispered, I remember. Her smile now. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't tremble. Her memory was no longer pain. It was strength. The shock and the sunrise, the days in the colony turned into weeks. Nia, once a half-frozen girl in a cryopod, was becoming something rare. Not just alive, not just safe, but whole. She laughed now. She drew pictures. She told stories to other kids under the stars, tales about her space soldier dad, who once fought machines with nothing but a knife and bad attitude. Ronan always rolled his eyes when he heard it. But deep down, he smiled. She was healing, but he knew it wasn't over. Not really. That morning, the sky was gold, clean. For once, it didn't feel like a war had been fought just over the horizon. Ronan sat at the edge of the cliff that overlooked the valley. Lyra's grave was marked by a smooth stone and a single crystal still glowing, still faintly pulsing. Nia sat beside him, holding a metal disc she had found in the ruins, a data key with old logs from the Ascenders. You sure you want to hear this? Ronan asked. She nodded. He plugged the device into a reader and let it play. Aha. Voice spoke. Not machine. Human. Clear. Cold. Subject N7 hybrid. Child extracted from Subject L during raid on Sector Dwell. Child shows exceptional adaptation. Neural growth exceeds baseline by 600%. Another voice cut in. Once bonded to the maternal unit, subject shows resistance to obedience conditioning. Recommend permanent severance and reprogramming. Ronan paused the recording. Nia's face was calm, but her hands were clenched. They thought I was a machine, she said. Just a tool. Like I didn't matter. You did matter, Ronan said. That's why she gave everything. That's why we fought. She looked at him. Her eyes didn't glow this time. They were just human. That evening, the colony held a small celebration. Nothing fancy, just fire pits, food, and laughter. Nia sat with kids her age. For once, no one stared. No one asked about the glow in her veins. They just passed her food and made jokes and argued about who would win in a space race. Ronan stood nearby, watching. Then, from the edge of the crowd, a tall woman approached him. Human, sharp eyes, clean coat, military air. You're Ronan, she said. He nodded. Depends who's asking. Name's Captain Reyes. We've been tracking reports of strange tech activity in the dead zones. Your name came up. He stayed quiet. We also picked up broken logs from the Ascender base, she added. The things they did, it's worse than anyone imagined. Ronan didn't flinch. I was there. She nodded. And the girl? He looked toward Nia. She's alive, he said. That's all that matters. Rhea studied him for a moment. We don't want her locked up, if that's what you're thinking. We want to understand her, maybe even learn from her. Ronan raised a brow. You want her for tests? No, she said firmly. We want to ask if she wants to help. Ronan didn't reply. Not yet. Later that night, he and Nia sat beneath the stars again. He told her about Reyes, what she offered, a chance to go to a larger station, learn more about who she was, and help others who might be like her one day. Nia didn't answer immediately. Then she asked, something strange. Do you think she'd be proud of me? Ronan didn't need to ask who she meant. He looked at the stars above and gave the only answer he could. Yes, I think she already is. The next morning, Nia made her decision that she would go, not to escape, not to hide, but to lead to stand in front of the system that once tried to erase her and say, I exist, I remember, and I choose who I become. Ronan agreed to go with her, at least for the first phase. She was strong now, but still growing, and he had one promise left to keep as they packed. Nia placed her hand on the crystal by Lyra's grave. It glowed a little brighter. I'll make you proud, Mama, she whispered. And I'll make sure they never hurt anyone else again. The wind carried her words softly, like the planet was listening. The ship arrived at dawn, a sleek transport, quiet, waiting. As they boarded, Nia looked back one last time. At the cliffs, the grave, the valley where she found life again. And then she stepped forward toward a new future. As the engines roared to life. Ronan sat beside her. She leaned her head on his shoulder and said, Hey, you never answered. Answered what? She smiled. Do you think you'll ever bond with someone like Mom bonded with you? Ronan snorted. Kid, I already did. Nia blinked. What? He looked at her. Her name's Nia. She's stubborn, strong, smarter than me, and saved my life more times than I can count. She laughed. And the ship lifted into the sky, cutting through the clouds toward a golden horizon.